Hi, I'm Anne Pollard, and this is the reading of my book, Cleo's Fabulous Adventures, The Realm of the Woods, Chapter 19, Quan Yin the Quail. Bacchus turned to Cleo. Are you ready to move on? He asked. Yes, I suppose, answered Cleo. My mind is still whirling from all of this new info. They both turned to leave the clearing and headed back to the deep, dense forest. In the daylight, it didn't seem quite so mysterious. The path opened in front of them again, and they began to make their way out of the forest. The trees became sparse. They started to see more grasses. Then they saw thickets. These were made from blackberry bushes, and at times were very dense. There were shorter broadleaf bushes that had a bare ground underneath them. They seemed to provide some cover to the ground below. The path was clear, and they walked for a while. Then they started hearing a strange call. It was guttural and throaty, and repeated the same three-syllable sound over and over. There was more than one animal making the sound, maybe a small group. Bacchus stopped at a small clump of grass and looked down. Hello, Quan Yin, he said. A quail emerged from under the grass and looked up at Bacchus. She was camouflaged so well that Cleo almost didn't see her. She had a stocky little body with pointed wings. Her face was black feathers with a white line under her eyes. Her body was covered in brown feathers that were streaked and striped with beige. Her belly was a brownish orange. But the cutest part was the plumage that stood on top of her head. It looked like a big feather that hung forward toward her eyes, but it still almost stood straight up. She was surrounded by a small group of other quails, and they all looked identical. Hello, Bacchus, she said in a chirpy voice. It's so nice to see you again. I've been anxiously awaiting your arrival. And this must be Cleo. It's so nice to meet you. Then she turned her head just slightly and with a smile said, Hello, Azrael. Then she turned back to Cleo. Cleo, we have all been eagerly watching your journey with Bacchus. What a grand adventure you're on. I think this will stretch you to new heights. I can already sense that your compassion and love has grown tremendously. You are surely a gift to your world. Oh, thank you, Quan Yin, said Cleo. It is a fabulous adventure, that's for sure. Quan Yin smiled back and said, I'm so pleased to hear that. You will do amazing things when you return to your Earth. Be aware that there will be some that won't understand the changes you're going through. They will sense that you are very different, and they won't know what to make of it. Let's talk about that for a while. Cleo agreed. She hadn't really thought about what her life would be like when she completed her adventure and went back to her real life. She didn't understand why some people would see her differently. She thought that everyone would be excited to hear about all that she was learning and experiencing. I would be pleased to talk about it, Quan Yin, she said. Quan Yin continued, Cleo, I know that you have had experiences with others in the past where you felt like you were being criticized. Would you agree? Cleo nodded in agreement. And when that happened, what did you do? Asked Quan Yin. Well, said Cleo, I guess I believed what they were saying, and I probably agreed with the criticism. Most of the time I would stay quiet and not really answer, but then I would think about it for weeks. What they said, I would get caught up in the feelings and not really be able to stop thinking about it. Yes, said Quan Yin, that is a typical response for most humans. You are all conditioned to believe that your survival depends on having others around you to protect you. So you are not often courageous enough to stand in the power of who you really are. You don't want to push others away because your basic instinct is to not alienate yourself from others. It's a very old pattern. And there are a lot of people who have not realized the true meaning of compassion. No judgment, that's just where they are in the game. But you are now seeing things differently. You understand that when people criticize others, they are actually criticizing themselves. Judgment is a very strong emotion in your world. It is a way that the ego keeps you in the duality of the third dimension. Cleo said, I'm not sure what you mean by duality. Can you explain that? Of course, said Quan Yin. Earth's third dimension is a polarized place. Things are right or wrong, black or white, good or bad. Your ego does that because it's part of the game that you are all playing on Earth. It comes from thousands of years of survival, where you had to judge quickly whether something was a threat to you or not. Of course, those days have long passed, but the group consciousness of that still exists. In our world, there is not that level of polarity. We see things in versions of gray, not black and white. Think about when you judge something yourself, whether that's you or something outside of you. Tell me about a time that you've judged someone for what you thought they did to you. Said Cleo. I guess that happens pretty much every day. Seems I'm always judging someone for something. Like this morning I was judging my boss when she told us she sold the company. Yes, said Quan Yin, that's a perfect example. So now that you know how to witness that and see it from the audience, how would you see that differently? Oh, said Cleo, let me think. I was judging her for not caring for her employees and doing things only for her behalf. That she was doing this to us and giving us more to do because she made a selfish decision. Okay, that's good, said Quan Yin. Now look at it from a higher perspective and from a neutral standpoint. Cleo thought for a minute and said, she was doing what she thought was right, and I was taking that personally, like it was an attack on me and my coworkers. She has the right to make decisions for herself and her company. That decision was her reality and was not directed at me. Yes, I can see that now very clearly. Kuan Yin smiled and ruffled her feathers. You are seeing the truth now, Cleo. I could not be more pleased. So now, can you see this business change as an endeavor that will stretch you, but also allow you to expand? Maybe even see this as an opportunity for you to look at what you really love and to start following a different path. You know, sometimes the universe sends us opportunities by forcing a change. So you can see this as a push to act on your dreams. Yes, said Cleo, I can see this in a new light. And really it could be an opportunity for me. And now I have the tools to embrace that and really shine. Cleo felt a warm sense around her, almost like a hug. She felt the presence of Azrael all around and smiled. Thank you, Azrael, she thought. Bacchus smiled. You have so much to look forward to, said Quan Yin. Always remember that you are the master of your life and reality. Embrace that with love and compassion. Act on your dreams. And never let others change who you really are because of what they might say or do. Move forward with all diligence. Your quest is just beginning. And remember, we are all here for you always, in every moment. You only need to ask for our help, and we will be there. Kuan Yin looked to Bacchus and said, Bacchus, this has been a grand time. I so enjoy our time together. Thank you for allowing me to play with you all. Bacchus nodded. It is always my pleasure, Kuan Yin. I bid you peace and love with our thanks. Yes, Cleo said. Thank you for your kind words and insights. You are both most welcome, said Kuan Yin. And now, my fellow quails and I have a lovely send-off for you. Kuan Yin beckoned to the other quails to come and form a circle with her. They all faced outward from the circle with their tails tightly woven in the center. And then they all took flight at the same time, going in all directions like an explosion of energy. Cleo ducked her head quickly in surprise and laughed. Bacchus smiled as he watched them disappear into the sky. Thank you for joining me. Have a fabulous day.